Welcome everybody. I'm so excited to have another amazing guest with us today at our Desk Careers Digital Spotlight. We are zooming in to speak with Philip McCarthy today, who is a mechanical design engineer and a business owner of Storm Cloud Ltd. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. It's very nice to meet you. I'm glad to be on the call.
It's so great to meet you, and I'm really excited to learn more about the roles and responsibilities of being a mechanical design engineer. But before we get into that, take us backwards in time to being a teenager and those academic subjects that you were most interested in, if you can remember what they were.
Absolutely. So I actually went to school in the Republic of Ireland, and I was pretty good at maths and physics, but what I also quite enjoyed was we used to do a subject called technical drawing, like on paper, and about halfway through school they introduced it to be a digital design course. So they introduced us to like product design and computer aided design, and kind of moved away from just like construction and into more like of a product design stuff, and I really enjoyed that. And then when I came to deciding what was next after school, I actually didn't really know, but my dad gave me a good piece of advice. It was, what do you like? And I was like, well, I'm good at maths and physics. I like those. I really like the design stuff. And then that led me down the road to mechanical engineering.
What is a mechanical design engineer?
So, a mechanical design engineer is a bit of a broad term, and it could vary place to place, but generally speaking, it's a person who is in charge of a product or a project, and they can oversee the whole project. They'll take responsibility of the timings of things, but they'll also actually come up with the ideas, they'll create the designs, and then they'll also do any calculations or simulations as well, and they'll then produce any documentation you need to specify the product. So it's quite a broad role. It involves a bit of project management, a little bit of creative design and engineering, and then a little bit of maths and physics to do the calculations. So it's got a broad spectrum.
And in knowing that our students are going to be busy designing their F1 cars, as a design engineer, what would you say would be the best design for an F1 car?
What a question. There's a lot of factors that make a car successful. I think it needs to be fast and reliable as a whole project, but the things that make a car fast and reliable, it's rarely any one idea, it's rarely one part. It's normally actually the product of the whole team working together, how clear its goals are, how well the people work together and collaborate, because it's more than the sum of its parts, really. So if you've got a good team of people and you've got the right people in the right positions, hopefully you'll be able to set a target to make the car very fast and then actually achieve that. So it's a bit of a tricky question, but yeah, it's normally actually about how the people work together than any one part.
Thank you for bringing up that element of it, because that's another one of our questions is, do you work with other engineers in other industries, or is the team not going out to other industries? And if you do, how do you collaborate? How do you share ideas with other engineers?
So in my role when I worked at Mercedes, we would collaborate with some external companies, but we'd also do a lot in-house. So from a design point of view and creating the ideas and the parts, we would mostly do it in-house, and we'd have a design office with probably maybe nearly 200 or at least over 100 engineers in there designing it. So you'd work with all these different departments on different parts of the car, and it's really important, because if you're designing your thing in one corner and somebody else does another part next door and you don't talk to each other, then you're going to make a mistake probably. And talking to each other in the office is, it's just, the company promotes collaboration between departments, good relationships, tries to avoid things like blame culture or any of these more negative things. And that's how we do it internally. For external companies, it varied really. There's a lot of emailing and phone calls, but actually some of the most successful relationships were companies that were already using things like Skype and Teams for Business and already available to do instant messaging and screen sharing and video calls, even before the pandemic made it a lot more popular. Because it just meant that you could work closely together and you could easily talk to each other as if they were in the same room. And that was, yeah, that it was very important to work closely rather than somebody goes away, does some work and comes back, because you might waste time then if something isn't quite right.
So how do you study mechanical engineering and then become a design engineer? How does one do that?
So, mechanical engineering as a degree is quite broad. You could go into anything from oil and gas. You could go into more of analysis and like be more of an analysis engineer. You could people go into finance, all sorts. It's just a degree that encourages problem solving and that skills, the kind of basics of some physics and engineering. And then later in the degree, you normally specialize down a route. It could be fluid dynamics, it could be vehicle dynamics, it could be renewable energy, any of those. So in terms of becoming a mechanical design engineer, you normally know by the end of your degree the aspects of engineering that you enjoy. And, for me, I took part in a thing called Formula Student that Heriot-Watt University offered. And through that extracurricular activity, I got the chance to do some design engineering and work with some cars. And I enjoyed it. And that's what led me to looking for jobs in that area. And I've never looked back.
So students are always asking about the top reasons that people go into careers, and money and salary is always right at the top of that list. What would you say is an average salary for a design engineer, particularly in that F1 category?
There's a huge variation, and the main factor in that variation is levels of experience. So if you come in as a graduate, you're going to earn less than somebody with 25 years experience. I think that's the same in every industry. So, I mean, as a graduate, and you could start on anything from 25 to 30,000 pounds sterling. So I'm not sure what that is in the relevant currencies. And then there's normally quite a bit of progression. So if you're successful and you enjoy what you do and you stay there for more time, the teams are generally pretty good at offering you the opportunity to put in a bit more work and get a bit more reward from it. So I think the starting salary, it might be similar to other design engineering and other companies, but the progression can be very good, especially if you enjoy where you work and you want to stay there.
And that's what it would be like in pretty much any other industry, isn't it? The promotion levels. What would you say have been your top 3 career tips that you think a young person could learn from?
So it's a tricky question because there's lots of little things, but there's probably no magic bullet, I would say. I think don't underestimate just being a nice being a nice person and getting on with people around you. And if you feel like you're not getting on with people, then it's not always you. Like, I think just ask questions and don't be afraid to say, I'm not sure, I don't know, because people appreciate you being honest, and a lot of the time they'll tell you how. And that was a big factor for me learning and progressing, is that actually, if you don't say, I'm not sure how you do that, then it's going to take you a lot longer to figure it out. So that's one thing, is I guess just be nice and ask questions. And then I guess the only other thing would be, it helps, like, people put in lots of extra work at the start of their careers or in internships, and they try and impress people and things like that. And it kind of, it can be a good thing, but don't underestimate just having a good work-life balance. And I think generally people who are happy in and out of work are normally slightly higher performance individuals anyway, just because they're relaxed, they're happy, you know, that they're not just stuck in an office trying to impress their boss. So I think that would be another thing I'd say is don't underestimate having hobbies and interests and committing to doing them outside of work.
Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing all this to us today. Philip, you're really, really interesting. I know you're young and still right at the beginning of this journey, and you've just started your own business. What's it like to now be a business owner?
It's interesting, a little bit stressful, kind of challenging, probably quite rewarding as well so far, just in terms of actually working with people under your own name and getting good feedback as well. So I found it's a big learning curve. So you're doing tasks that might seem mundane, like when you're setting up your business, you've got to look at things like, you know, finances and all these other administrative things. But actually, when you're doing it for yourself, it is a bit more interesting. You kind of want to do a good job. And now that I've been doing it for a few months, I'm doing less of that and actually starting to deliver projects for different clients. And it's just very rewarding to kind of be your own boss. I think I really liked working in F1, and I think I could see myself going back to it if there was an opportunity. But for the time being, I think I'm going to pursue my own business for the next couple of years and actually see where it takes me. Because so far, I think there's, on one hand, there's a bit less out there because of the pandemic, but there's other work and jobs that people are doing because of the pandemic, and that is actually creating some more interesting work to do. And I'm really excited to be a part of that.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of another amazing Desk Careers interview. Today we spoke with Philip McCarthy, who is the mechanical design engineer and business owner of Stormcloud Ltd. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Philip, for spending some time with us today. And I look forward to seeing you all at our next Digital Spotlight.